Welcome back, drag racers, to the Dorky M40 channel. If you've been on the Facebook groups lately, no matter what it is that has to do with no prep drag, all you read about is tires. Air in the tires, voodoo tires, tire prep, front tires, sanding tires, all tires. Even Big Chief said it best, that tires is literally the most important thing, and prep. So we're going to kick off with a tire video here. More importantly, the front tire. Now we have a lot of stuff coming up on the channel. If you missed my recap, you will see what all is going on. Don't forget to subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff, because we're going to have a lot of testing that should give you guys an edge if you're not doing some of this stuff. How do I know? Because people that are doing this are people that are winning across the country and are also beating yours truly. So we need to take those steps right now. And the first thing we're going to do is start with the front tires. Let's check it out. So I should also mention that we're also going to be going over a few little radio tricks that I do in my Sanwa M17. You can do this with Futaba. You can even do some of this with even lower end radios like Spectrum, even some RTR radios. So let's kind of show you the before and after here. So here's your usual Hoosier drag tire, which is pretty ran down, all that kind of stuff. This is pretty much what everybody runs. Some people might run DEs or something like that. This right here is a sanded down 2-wheel drive carpet buggy tire and wheel with foam inside. And you can see the size difference right there, or right there. The smaller tire reacts better, keeps your car going straighter, will also keep your car from making as aggressive as turn maneuvers when you're overcorrecting or undercorrecting for steering. There's just a ton of benefits in it. None of this is an original idea of mine. I've done all the research on the Facebook groups and stuff like that to find out exactly what we need to do. So there's a few different ways that we can accomplish this. The first way is to go out and get you a pair of these pre-glued Schumacher Stagger low profile glued tires. So these are all ready to go. You don't really, honestly, in my opinion, even need to sand these front tires. You can if you want. Some of the bigger ones we'll get into, you would want to sand, but you can see that with the tread, it's a little bit bigger than the tire that's sitting next to it. The one thing about these though is a lot of people don't like them because they don't look scaled. That's understandable. And you also might have some problems breaking beams if you're running on track timing systems. But this is the easiest way to go. One thing I do not like about it is you can really squish this down in here. So you could be riding, I kind of like putting a little bit of foam inside there just to have a little bit more beef. Like here, I've got foam inside this one and in the other ones that I prepared, and I'll show you all about that right now. So the first two components are the J Concepts Coils / Bandit Hex front wheels. This is what they look like right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to trim off this backside edge here to make the tire a little bit more narrow. And then I've got just some regular medium density Schumacher foams here that I literally just cut them in half, stuff that inside the tire, get it all prepped and ready to go, glue the tire up. Now, what tires can you use? So the first option is the J Concept Buzz, which these actually come with foam, so you wouldn't even need to buy any. And the Buzz I'm working on right now, they're a little bit bigger of a tire, but there's a lot of stuff there. You can really remove a lot of material. If you put this kind of side by side next to a Hoosier, it's really not that much smaller than a Hoosier. So you really got to sand this baby down a little bit and put it on the more narrow wheel to get the desired result out of it. Now these tires here are the ProLine Pyramids. They of course are a lot smaller. Now I've worked these in two different ways. I have glued them to the coils a set without cutting the back sides off, and I've done them with a set of cutting the actual back sides off of the rims so they will be a little bit narrow. So these are the ones that are a little less narrow right here, and we'll show you some examples of the ones that are outside that are a little bit more narrow. And I'll show you how I go ahead and sand them down and everything. Again, none of this is original. Everybody's been doing this. I'm just bringing it to your attention in case you've never seen this before or have thought about it. So there we go. We got two small tires to put on our car. Gonna help our rake a little bit so we get more of a front to back swoop, a little bit better of an angle for the air. We can trim our bodies down a little bit, save a few grams of weight there, save a few grams of weight on the tires, and everything's just gonna be beautiful. So I've been working on my tires out here, and you can see that I made a spectacular mess that I'm gonna have to clean up before I decided to start doing it on the garage floor. And now what I do is just chuck one of these up, chuck them up to your drill, however you want to. Some people use a belt sander if you want to, whatever. You're gonna use a Dremel tool to cut off the back sides of your wheel, sand it down, grind it down, however you want to make it smooth. And then here is your tire. So you can see how I have completely sanded down all of the material off of that tire, and it's basically like a front drag slick. And if you want a good comparison shot, there you go right there. Definitely smaller than the Hoosier, not as dramatic as if you were to use one of the Schumacher tires, but definitely dramatic enough. Plus it just kind of looks like a real tire. It looks like it's made for a car. It's not a thick sidewall and everything like that. So I kind of like that. So I chuck these up on the drill. I've got just a regular nice flexible putty spatula, and I have super glued some 80 grit sandpaper to each side of it. And basically what I do is just run the tire over here. Takes maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, depending upon how careful you want to be with it. You do want to be careful, especially if you want to grind down like the Schumachers, because you can see that they really didn't take the sanding very well. It was a little too aggressive, and there's a cut somewhere on this tire. Yeah, there it is right there. So you don't want to really go too hog wild with these. But after some sanding and some smoke and a big pile of rubber, you're gonna be left with this right here. And this baby just needs cleaned and a little bit of, prep and treatment, and it's gonna be ready to go. They're all glued up. There's foam on the inside there. So we've got some nice compression that we can have. Don't have to worry about any of that. Here's the back side of the coil that we cut off of there. That's going into the trash. And that's pretty much it. All we gotta do is get outside and run these things, see how they run. I think everything's gonna be just awesome, and they're gonna run super fine. So why don't we go outside and do that and see how it goes? Straight pass. So those were a few short examples of just some recent rips that we had once we did the small tire upgrade and using some stuff in the radio. Which one is contributing more to the fact that the car is drivable? I'm gonna say they both are having an equal amount. Maybe the radio a little bit more. The thing that's great though is that you don't get such mass just kind of rotating everywhere, so the servo can react faster and everything else. And then when you put in the settings in your radio, it's going to keep your car from catching, rolling, fishtailing, and all that kind of stuff. You could see that I was able to drive out of some pretty aggressive situations in both directions at 50 some miles per hour, maybe 60, and not have a single rollover. So let's take a look at the radio now, and I'll show you what I'm doing inside here. So if we take a look at how my radio settings work here in the car, I get that initial 25% either way, and that's 25% of my adjusted EPA on my steering rate. which is about 70%. So I get an initial 25% of that, and then the rest of it will slowly ramp in. And that's basically what you can see as I go back and forth. Now, this first I saw on Dennis's channel, Gravity Racer GT, and I'll put a link to his channel below. But I also soon thereafter saw that a lot of the people that race locally with me are doing this with their radio already. And it's very handy as far as controlling everything. And I'll show you what that looks like here in the Sanwa right now. So we'll zoom in here and take a look at what we're actually doing on the Sanwa. And what I'm in here is my custom menu for steering, R mode. People familiar with that. You can set up for steering, you can set up for throttle, and everything is pretty much the same premise. So first of all, my channel is calibrated to 100%. I am using 65% of the range from left to right. My sub trim, all that stuff's on there. You can see all that. If we go back and we go into the actual settings, you're gonna see there's my dual rate of 65. Now we're gonna go down to where the magic is. So we have the speed adjustment here, and the most important thing, we'll start with the bottom, which is changing this to out. So basically we want this to be at the beginning of the turn. So when I initially turn the wheel, I am going immediately to 25%. That's what the point is. So think of that as your starting point, your launch or whatever, except we're talking about steering. 0 is the return speed, so it's going to come back to center, normal. And then the forward is set at -96. Now this is your actual speed that it's going to go and ramp up after you go past 25% if you keep holding onto the steering wheel left or right. So you can change this. This is pretty much the main adjustment that you're going to make, how fast you want it to react. If you want to, you could add an expo curve in there as well if you wanted to, but I find that these settings work just great. If you look at my steering channel here, I'm holding full left and now full right, and you'll see how slowly it ramps in after I get that initial 25%. So pretty nice. And keep in mind, that's 25% of 65%. So if I change the dual rate up to 100%, it's gonna give me 25% steering and then ramp all the way up to 100. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with these radios. Very, very powerful. So that is going to do it, everybody. There's a lot of great information in here. Even if you apply just a little bit, you don't need to go out and buy an expensive radio. Some of these settings should be involved in any radio that you have, but you would definitely want to try to find some way to slow your steering down, whether you use an expo curve or a speed setting, something like that. Don't just chop off the ends and not make up for it, because it's still gonna move just as fast. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. If you have any questions, hit me up. Peace.